It's time for another exciting episode of the JoshCast. Did that sound believable? I don't think that sounded believable. Let's try it again. It's time for another exciting episode of the JoshCast. I'm your host, Trent Moore Featherweather. I like the effort there. That's fine. There's a spider web in my car. That's how single I am. How single are you? There are cobwebs. There's cobwebs in my pants. Spiders are down there saying, well, I don't think I've seen any action here in nigh on 5 years. People are walking their dogs. There's a guy walking what looks like a wolf in Burbank. Perfect. Excellent. That's the exact right climate for an Arctic timber wolf. A semi-arid desert. Thank you. Thank you, humanity. Nicely done. That's good. That's great to have a wolf walking around going, I know what my name is. Do you know what yours? Do you know what my name is? Do you know what I am? I know what I am. So the Game of Thrones finale was last night. I have not watched an entire episode of Game of Thrones. So, but I did Google like what happened. So I now know what happened, and it you know, it all makes sense to me. I mean, it's amazing that people were guessing, but when I read about what you're like, yeah, that kind of makes sense given how the thing started. You know, easy for me to say. Hindsight is 2020. I wonder what they said before optometrists came up with the eyesight range of 2020 and what have you. Ah, yes. Well, hindsight is very good vision. That phrase doesn't work. I know, it needs... The rhythm's wrong. If only there were an exact way to measure how good a person's eyesight would be, then the phrase would work. Like, part of me just wanted to make up my own version of Game of Thrones and just talk through it in this podcast. That was the idea I had last night for the podcast today. But the question is, because I had the idea last night and it's not spontaneous, will the lack of spontaneity destroy this idea? Or should I trust that what was my idea last night was a good impulse and I should just go for it? These are the questions. That is the question, whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous pre-written sketches. Let's just do it. Let's do it. This is my version of Game of Thrones. It starts out in the faraway, mythical, long-ago land of Benjamin. And there are 5 rival families. The Smiths, the Ramones, the Beatles, the Mamas and the Papas, and Jefferson Starship. The last family, just the kids get made fun of a lot with a last name like that. You know, Aragorn Jefferson Starship never hears the end of it. He's the youngest of the princes. There's Aragorn Jefferson Starship and Matilda Jefferson Starship, and of course Jefferson Starship, who gets made fun of even more than Aragorn. And the father is Altheiser Jefferson Starship, the 4th, and the mother was killed by a dragon, tragically. And her name was Sarah, so that was fun. And the big question is they're all battling to see who's going to get the iron end table. They were going to do an iron throne, but it's way too uncomfortable. So they decided to just do a regular comfortable chair, but have an iron end table next to it where you could put your beverage. And that is the symbol of power. The ironed end table, which was also designed to fit against most pieces of furniture. So that way, depending on who wins it, it can be transported to different kingdoms and still generally fit in with the decor. The iron is really on the bottom of it. It's from the outset, it just looks like a regular wooden end table. They just wanted to make sure that the knives sticking out of it would clash with a lot of things, raise a lot of questions. You don't want somebody taking a knife out of it and stabbing someone. So you trust that it's iron. But who would, they wouldn't lie about that. And it's been very well taken care of. No circle stains on it, no coffee stains. So that's a plus. And of course, there's a lot of incest going on in this situation. Between, all the Jefferson starships are in love with each other, and all the mamas and papas are in love with each other. I mean, the mamas and the papas are also granddads and grandmas. That's how crazy that incest has been. The Smiths are a little less incestuous. They're a little bit more, they're more into, spreading around the gene pool a bit. And the Smiths live in the southern land, and the Jefferson starships live in the northern land, and the mamas and the papas live in the center, and all the other ones are in the suburbs, really. There's a huge suburb in this mythical land of Benjamin. Huge suburbs. Lots of housing developments. Lots of condos. Tons of condos. In fact, over the generations, there's been basically another subset of the human race, which are called condo beings, who can only live in condos and only understand condo living. And the way to kill a condo being is throw them into an actual house. And the thought of not having a maintenance department drives them to madness. So in book 1, which is a song of fire and designer sneakers, the head of the Jefferson Starship House is assassinated at the end of page 1. Really right in the middle of a sentence. And the sentence is, I thought the soup was okay, but I think I'm going to need a salad. Boom! Murdered. Murdered right there, right then and there, by a master assassin, whose name just happens to be Master Assassin. He's so good, he thought, well, I'll just call myself what I am. And actually created a whole line of, a whole litany, if you will, progeny of Master Assassins who thrived for generations by being Master Assassins. Although one of the Master Assassins, you're not going to see this until the spin-off series. One of the Master Assassins rebelled from the family tradition and actually became an attorney and became a master attorney. But that's a whole different multi-novel arc involving a lot of intrigue and indigestion. So, the head of Jefferson Starship is killed, and the kingdom is thrown into disarray, and the Smiths basically inherit the kingdom. And Jefferson Starship is banished to the semi-arid desert of hopelessness, where he gets a job as a security guard in an outlet mall. And while he's in the semi-arid desert of hopelessness, he runs into an Oracle / Orange Julius salesman who tells him that there is a major storm coming and that he should definitely get insurance. And thus, he goes on a quest from the semi-arid desert to the arid desert to get insurance from the Imperial Insurance Agency, where he meets a young insurance agent, a beautiful young insurance agent named Similak Medulabov, who has a dark secret. And the dark secret turns out to actually be a rather vanilla secret. She doesn't like the color blue. That's her thing. And so they fall in love naturally. And they make love on a bed of insurance forms. And Jefferson Starship decides, in spite of everything, that he is going to get the hurricane insurance, even though there hasn't been a hurricane in the realm ever. In fact, nobody knows what a hurricane is, really. They think the insurance company just made it up. Doesn't matter. He's not going to take any chances. He's going to get the hurricane insurance. Meanwhile, Troika Smith, one of the Smith family members, the second princess, third in line, fourth born, fifth of the Smiths to go to college, plans a secret meeting with the Mamas and the Papas chief, and also has an affair with the Mamas and the Papas chief, who is concurrently having an affair with the mother of the Smiths, and is also having an affair with Linda from accounting. And that's all we know about Linda. She's in accounting, but we're not sure where. Probably from the suburbs. Definitely a condo person, because whenever she tries to go into the castle, she gets hives. I just don't understand why I don't have an HBO series at this point. I just gave you the equivalent of 8 years of phenomenal television right there. 8 years of phenomenal television. And I get no credit for it. I just don't get it. I don't get it! It was a long way to go for a joke about accounting. That was a long way to go for a joke about accounting. There's a dog. His head is sticking out of the window of the car, sniffing, trying to get its bearings. I watched some video on, I think it was YouTube or Facebook, that said, explaining how dogs use their sense of smell, or they have a finely tuned sense of direction. That they're able to, and when they're circling, if you see them circle, it's they're trying to figure out which way is north, so they can proceed to continue to be codependent. I don't know if the cat has a finely tuned sense of direction. I feel like it does, but the cat sits there and says, I don't need to spin around like an idiot. I know where north is. I'm a cat. Okay? I just get the sense that dogs enjoy holding their heads out the windows of cars. And I'm envious of their ability to enjoy something so simple as that. I do not enjoy the simple pleasures of life anymore. The last time I enjoyed something, what did I really enjoy? I'm not even sure. I don't even trust my memory of enjoyment. Because I'll do something I enjoy, and then I do it again a year later, and I go, yeah, well, I don't know, this felt better a year earlier. Lately, what I find enjoying is when nothing bad happens. Just quiet. That's what I find enjoyable. Peace and quiet. So as you can see, I'm a really hip dude. I'm really a hip dude. You know, they say it's hip to be square. Shut up! Now, where did that come from? I am Mordak, and I destroy all things that are uncool. You yourself seem uncool. My God, you're right! I am very square, I must destroy myself! And that right there was kind of like an episode of Star Trek I just watched, where Kirk has to convince a computer that thinks it's perfect that it is not perfect, and thus the computer destroys itself. And the perfect computer got around by floating, aka being hung from a string. It was like watching a talking ceiling lamp for an hour. Still, quality television. I'll take Star Trek any day of the week. Except perhaps Wednesday. That's a lie. I'd take it on a Wednesday. Well, I'd take that any day of the week. I would only take that Thursdays and Sundays. That's the quality of that. Take that any day of the week. Any day of the week is fine. Hindsight is very good vision. Hindsight is the kind of vision where you can see the lettering of something from more than a cubit away. That's how they used to say it in ancient days. That's that exact phrasing. And it didn't work. And then they came along with 2020 vision, and then, somebody said, hindsight is 2020. That's way better. Way better phrase. See, you learned something from this podcast. Driving into downtown Burbank, seeing the Burbank Mountains sprawling before me. I don't think they're called the Burbank Mountains. I don't know what they're called. They're called the We're on Fire Every Year Mountains. The mountain's on fire. Hello, mountain's on fire. How are you today? On fire, you? Oh, depressed. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Well, this was certainly a podcast to remember. I mean, I think we really bonded with Jefferson Starship. And, hopefully it turns out well for him. You'll have to find out next season on Bein and Benjamin.